What would you do if the woman who welcomed you into her family was secretly determined to destroy your marriage? Grace thought she had married the man of her dreams. She was 30 years old, successful, educated, and independent. Her husband, Michael, was everything she had hoped for. He was kind, hardworking, loyal, and deeply in love with her. But there was one person who never accepted their marriage: Michael's mother. Her name was Patricia. To everyone else, Patricia was a loving mother who had sacrificed everything for her son. But behind closed doors, she believed something very different. She believed Michael belonged to her, and she was determined to make sure no woman ever became more important to him than she was. At first, Grace thought Patricia simply was protective. Then the small comments began. Then the accusations. Then the lies. And eventually, Patricia's plan would threaten to destroy everything Grace and Michael had built together. But Patricia made one mistake. She underestimated her daughter-in-law, and she never imagined the truth would eventually come back to her.
Grace met Michael at a professional conference in Warri, Delta State. She had gone there representing the company she worked for. Michael was there representing an engineering firm. Their first conversation lasted only 10 minutes, but somehow they continued talking long after the conference ended. Within months, friendship became love. 2 years later, Michael proposed. Grace said yes. Their wedding was beautiful. It was modern, elegant, and attended by their closest family and friends. Michael's mother, Patricia, cried throughout the ceremony. When Grace approached her after the wedding, Patricia hugged her tightly. "Welcome to the family." Grace smiled. "Thank you, Ma." Patricia kissed her cheek. "I only want one thing." "What?" "Take care of my son." Grace laughed. "I will." Patricia smiled, but there was something unusual in her expression, something Grace didn't notice. After the wedding, Michael and Grace moved into their own apartment in Warri. For the first few months, everything was wonderful. They worked, cooked together, traveled on weekends, and enjoyed their new life as husband and wife. But Patricia visited constantly, sometimes without calling. One Saturday morning, Grace was preparing breakfast when she heard the doorbell. She opened the door. Patricia stood outside. "Good morning, Mama." Patricia walked inside. "Where is Michael?" "He's still sleeping." Patricia frowned. "Sleeping?" Grace nodded. "He came home late last night." Patricia looked at her. "What time did you allow him to sleep?" Grace was confused. "Allow him?" Patricia ignored the question. She walked into the kitchen. "You cooked this?" "Yes." Patricia opened one of the pots. She tasted the food, then shook her head. "My son doesn't like too much pepper." Grace stared at her. "I didn't know." "You should know." Michael suddenly appeared. "Mom?" Patricia's expression immediately changed. "My baby." She hugged him. Grace watched silently. Michael smiled. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I came to check on you." Patricia looked at Grace. "Your wife has been taking good care of you, I hope?" Michael laughed. "She's wonderful." Patricia smiled, but her eyes weren't smiling. Patricia never attacked Grace openly. She was smarter than that. Instead, she planted small doubts. Whenever Michael complained about work, Patricia would say, "Maybe you need peace at home." If Grace bought something expensive, some women don't understand that marriage requires sacrifice. If Grace spent time with her friends, marriage changes a woman's priorities. And whenever Michael defended his wife, Patricia would become quiet. Then she would say, "I'm only saying this because I love you." Slowly, Michael began noticing things he had never noticed before. Not because Grace had changed, but because his mother kept telling him to look. One evening, Grace returned home earlier than expected. She heard voices coming from the living room. Michael was sitting with Patricia. Grace stopped before entering. She heard Patricia say, "She has changed you." Michael sighed. "Mom, please, I'm your mother. I know. I raised you alone. I know. And now this woman comes into your life and suddenly you don't have time for me." Grace's heart sank. Michael didn't respond. Patricia continued, "One day you will realize that I was right." Grace quietly walked away. She went into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. She wasn't angry, she was hurt, because Patricia wasn't simply interfering, she was trying to create a competition Grace never wanted. Several weeks later, something valuable disappeared from Patricia's house. It was a gold bracelet that belonged to her late husband. Patricia immediately called Michael. "I'm missing something." Michael became concerned. "What?" "My bracelet." "When did you last see it?" Patricia hesitated. "The last time Grace visited." Michael froze. "Mom, I'm not accusing her. But you think she took it?" "I said I'm not accusing her." That was enough. Michael confronted Grace. "Did you take anything from Mom's house?" Grace stared at him. "What?" "Her bracelet." Grace's face changed. "You think I stole from your mother?" "I didn't say that, but you're asking me." Michael lowered his voice. "Just tell me the truth." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "I have never stolen anything in my life." Patricia appeared at the doorway. "It's okay, Michael." Grace turned toward her. Patricia looked heartbroken. "I don't want this to destroy your marriage." Grace suddenly understood. This wasn't an accusation, it was a performance. Grace decided to investigate quietly. She didn't want another argument. She wanted the truth. She checked the dates. She remembered Patricia had hosted a small family gathering shortly before the bracelet disappeared. She also remembered something else. Patricia had been unusually nervous that evening. Grace eventually discovered that Patricia had reported the bracelet missing to her insurance company. That made no sense. Why would she accuse Grace while simultaneously claiming the bracelet had been stolen? Grace began asking questions. Then she found something disturbing. The insurance claim had been filed before Patricia ever accused Grace. Grace's hands trembled. Patricia wasn't simply trying to punish her. She was hiding something. Grace spoke to Michael. "I need you to listen to me." Michael looked exhausted. "What now?" "Your mother is lying." His expression hardened. "Grace, please, just listen." She showed him the insurance documents. Michael stared at them. "Why was this filed before she spoke to me?" "I don't know. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe." Grace looked into his eyes. "But I think your mother wants you to believe I'm stealing from her." Michael remained silent. Then his phone rang. "Patricia." He answered. "Hello, Mom." Grace watched his expression change. Patricia was crying. Michael looked at Grace. "I have to go." Grace nodded, but this time, Michael didn't know what to believe. That night, Michael went to his mother's house. He found Patricia in the living room. "Mom." She looked up. "Why are you here?" "I need the truth." Patricia became nervous. "About what?" "The bracelet." She looked away. "Michael." "Did Grace steal it?" Silence. Then Patricia whispered, "No." Michael froze. "What?" "I never saw her take it." "Then why did you make me suspect her?" Patricia began crying. "Because I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of losing you." Michael stared at her. "You are my mother." "I know. You will always be my mother." Patricia wiped her tears. But since you came into my life, you don't need me anymore. Michael shook his head. That's not true. I see the way you look at her. Because she's my wife. Patricia looked at him, and then she said something that revealed everything. I wanted you to leave her. Michael's face went cold. Why? Because I found someone else. What? A woman from a good family, someone I know. Michael stepped backward. You tried to destroy my marriage because you wanted to choose another wife for me? Patricia said nothing. Patricia wasn't finished. She had already prepared another lie. She planned to convince Michael that Grace was secretly having an affair. She had even created fake messages using a second phone. But this time, Michael was ready. He secretly recorded their next conversation. Mom, why are you doing this? Patricia answered angrily. Because you're wasting your life. With Grace? Yes. She's my wife. She took you away from me. Michael closed his eyes. That's what this is about? Patricia's voice broke. I was your whole world before her. You still matter to me. Not enough. Michael stared at her. You don't want a son. Patricia looked confused. You want someone you can control. The room became silent. The following evening, Michael brought Grace to his mother's house. Patricia was surprised. Why did you bring her here? Michael placed his phone on the table. I want us to talk. Patricia looked nervous. Michael played the recording. Her own voice filled the room. Grace listened silently. When it ended, Patricia began crying. I was afraid. Grace finally spoke. You didn't have to be. Patricia looked at her. You are taking my son. Grace's head shook. I wasn't taking him. I gave birth to him. And I never tried to replace you. Patricia lowered her eyes. Grace continued. I wanted a husband, not a son. Michael looked at his mother. And I wanted a wife, Mom. Patricia covered her face. For the first time, she had no lie left. Michael didn't abandon his mother, but he established boundaries. He told Patricia she could no longer interfere in his marriage. He also told her that if she wanted to remain close to him, she had to respect Grace. Patricia initially refused, but months passed. The family became distant, and Patricia began living with the consequences of her actions. Eventually, she apologized, not because Michael forced her, but because she finally understood what she had done. She looked at Grace. I'm sorry. Grace remained silent for several seconds. Then she nodded. I accept your apology. Patricia began crying. But I don't expect you to forget. Grace shook her head. I won't. Patricia looked surprised. Grace continued. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. Michael placed his hand gently on Grace's shoulder. For the first time, Patricia understood that her son wasn't lost. He had simply grown up. Years later, Michael and Grace were still married. Their relationship had become stronger. Patricia was still part of their lives, but there was a difference. She no longer controlled her son. She respected their marriage, and Grace never tried to control Patricia either. One evening, Patricia sat with Michael. I made a terrible mistake. Michael looked at her. I know. I thought losing control of you meant losing you. Michael smiled sadly. You nearly did. Patricia lowered her head. But you stayed. Because you are my mother. She looked at him. And Grace? Michael smiled. She's my wife. Patricia finally understood. A mother doesn't lose her son when he gets married. She only loses him when she refuses to let him become his own man. Grace never forgot the woman who had once tried to destroy her marriage, but she also never allowed Patricia's cruelty to change the person she was. Michael learned something too. Loving your mother doesn't mean allowing her to control your marriage.
And defending your wife doesn't mean abandoning your family. Sometimes, the hardest thing in a family is knowing where love ends and control begins. Patricia wanted to keep her son forever. Instead, she nearly lost him completely. Because the greatest mistake a parent can make is believing that their child's happiness must always look exactly the way they want it to look. And the greatest victory for Grace wasn't defeating her mother-in-law. It was protecting her marriage without becoming cruel herself. Because sometimes the person who tries hardest to destroy your home is the person who eventually teaches you how strong your home really is.